Hello, everybody. My name is Benny, and welcome to The Fool's Apprentice. Today, we are doing another tarot chat with Anna. How are you doing?
Just fine. How are you?
We're pretending we haven't seen each other. We actually just recorded our Tarot One card study.
It's like we've been wearing the same outfit for weeks.
Yeah. And I like to change things up, but oh man, I usually wear a different shirt as well. I didn't change my shirt, but that's okay.
It's a black T-shirt. You probably have six of them.
So please introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, everybody. My name is Anna. My YouTube channel is called The Well-Appointed Mystic. And the joke is that the name came because my other life that's considerably more well known is called The Well-Appointed Desk. And so when I was trying to pick out a name for my tarot channel, I kind of got lazy because I had a whole list of like all these potential names and like all these ideas. And then I was just like, I should probably just go with the well-appointed something or other.
Well, the big thing about
Well-appointed tarot, well-appointed something. So
yeah,
that's how it came about.
you could always change it if you find something different later. That's a great thing.
It's true.
Dawn
Yeah. Well,
Bell's done that. Lisa, I think Lisa did that. I know Christus Chronicles, she did that. So it's not uncommon for people to change their
it is not. It's not. But for now, I think it kind of works at this point, as I haven't a real clear direction that I want to take the channel, but I do know that I'm kind of a design snob.
Are you?
Well, I've been working as a graphic designer for years. I've worked in product development. I worked for Hallmark Cards for 20 years.
Did you? That is so cool.
I used to be an art director for Shoebox Cards. So like I have a lot of design experience and working with some of the most talented people in the world. So as I go through tarot decks and things, I get hung up on little details that as a designer, I hear Don Michelle say it a lot too. And I feel like, yeah, power to the sisters, like we see the same things. And just that, like there'll be little things like I'll get tripped up because I don't like the font someone picked for the titles.
Okay, very interesting. Very cool.
At one point I was like, should I just call my channel Tarot Snob? Because that really is kind of what I can be sometimes. And I don't mean to be. It's like, no, it's no shade to anyone in particular. It's just one of those things that like when you've been trained to do design as long as
you become acutely aware of aesthetics because that is your profession and it's always in the forefront of your mind. So I get it. Like me, aesthetics is very important. That's why my channel has had this transformation,
your beautiful background and like cool lighting and everything. Like, yes,
it's over the
I
top.
can tell it makes a difference to you.
It does, but it's over the top. And I still haven't gotten it set right. Like right now, I wish my face was brighter. So I have to do post production. I have to go mix with the lighting.
Totally understand.
But when I move into,
well, when we logged on,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I said when we logged into this and I was like, oh wait, this isn't like Zoom. I don't get the face touch up thing. Like, get rid of all the wrinkles and red.
Oh yeah. No, when I move into my new home, I'm going to have a room dedicated to my tarot channel and stuff. So hopefully when that's done, I'm actually going to probably bring somebody in to like set everything up where I don't have to touch anything. I don't have to edit anything when we're done. So that's the goal. We'll see. But
yeah,
how long have you been doing the tarot?
So I bought my first tarot deck back in the mid 90s. And then because at that point in time, there wasn't the network of people online and just, I was kind of in the broom closet for a lot of years.
Oh.
So it wasn't until the last 3 years really that I finally just like, and I don't know if it's age or culture or whatever, but I'm like, it's just time to be who I want to be. Like, I don't want to get to the end of my life and think I didn't do all the things I wanted to do because I was afraid of what other people were going to think.
I think that's one of the blessings about getting older is you care less and less as the years go by, what other people think.
Yep. I mean, it's still hard. Like the potential still exists that people will react poorly to, oh, you're doing that devil's magic, and, like those kinds of reactions that you get. And, it's hard to take, but it's also one of those things where it's just like you kind of sigh and roll your eyes, like, really, we're still at this point in history, in time, where people are like, tarot decks are the devil's work, and you're just like, oh, come on, do we have to go through this
I
again?
know some people like that, but I think because of being a member of the LGBT community, I've gotten to a place in my life where I could care less what you think of me. Really,
Yeah.
think of me as none of my business. You don't have to like me, all that kind of stuff. So the other stuff that maybe people would struggle with being in the closet with, I don't have, because like I had a big, big closet to already come out of.
Absolutely. And honestly, I feel like maybe something that I should have thought about sooner. I have lots of friends who are in various parts of the LGBTQ community, and I've always been huge supporters and love my friends for who they are. And I don't know why I thought that people wouldn't feel the same way about me just because I liked tarot cards and witchy stuff. And, like, honestly, like, how self-absorbed could I possibly be to think that, oh, it's okay for you to come out of the closet, but I'm going to stay in here where it's safe? Like, it's kind of a jerk move on my part. And so,
I don't think so. I mean, everybody has their own journey to go through. So, and there are consequences.
That's true.
You could lose a friend. You could life could be a little harder. Work could be a little harder because of it. So I get it. And since it's Pride Month, I want to thank you for being an ally. I think that's very important. So I appreciate it.
100%. 100%. My husband is a letterpress printer. When the law was passed for LGBTQ marriage rights, he made this beautiful poster that said "Love Wins," and we distributed it to all of our friends. And still one of my favorite things he ever did. He was so excited that day. He's like, I'm rolling it up in a rainbow colors, and I'm gonna put it up in the window. And so,
Love that. That's so sweet.
Yeah, it was really sweet. I feel like maybe we should run and do another run, because right now I think we need.
If you do, let me know.
Okay, I will. So, I think we need more love in the world.
Do you remember the deck that you bought 30 years ago?
I still have them.
Do you? Do you have two?
I do. And
okay, we're going to skip ahead. I want to see them.
Let's just skip ahead. Okay. So my husband and I were debating which one came first.
Okay.
And I am pretty sure that this was the deck that came first. And this is, let's get me in the camera. This is the original Vertigo Tarot that was created by Dave McKeon. It was based on the Vertigo comic book series. This is the guidebook.
Okay.
Vertigo Tarot.
Okay, I got to see some cards.
Oh, you know it. Now, here's the catch. Okay, Dave McKeon was the artist who did the covers for the Sandman comic books for years.
Okay.
So his artwork is very beautiful photo collage. But the guidebook was written by Rachel Pollack.
Ooh, very nice.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, so we're going to give you some cards. So this is the Ace of Swords. So they are super moody. I'm going to caveat right here. These are out of print decks. So.
Oh my gosh.
So all of the minors are very pippish. That's the 9 of Wands. So it makes the wands make like a box and then pushing out. But the original major arcana, each card is based on one of the characters from the Vertigo Tarot. Or from the Vertigo line. So since we just talked about the Magician, let me see if I can find it.
Do you use this deck still?
It's not a deck that I use a lot because they're sort of, one, it's pippish, so it's a little bit harder for me to use. And for a first deck, it was super challenging. I didn't have as much trouble with majors because they were based on, so like, this is the Death card, and if you're familiar with like the Sandman series on Netflix, this is Death from the Sandman series.
Wow. I haven't seen the Sandman series yet.
So,
and I love the blue in it.
oh, it's such a pretty card. And so if you're familiar with any of the like those, basically that whole world, like the same way that people will take the Lord of the Rings tarot and they know all of the characters and they know what they represent in the stories. This is the same kind of thing. So in this one, the magician is from a series called Books of Magic, and he was actually a young boy who discovers that he is a magician. So
Very cool.
there's like other layers to the story. Like to me, the High Priestess always has heady energy. That's the character. So it's, again, like if you're familiar with that series, it means a lot. But also the artwork is beautiful. The
I can't believe that you bought this 30 years ago, then you put it up, didn't do tarot until 3 years ago, and you still have the deck. Like
I
what?
still have the deck.
Why did you keep it for so long and not like most people would have gotten rid of it or it would have gotten lost?
Oh no. So as a collector of things anyway, but also like I knew its value to me because I spent a lot of money on it at the time. But so much so that when they did a re-release of the deck, I bought the re-release. So I actually have 2 copies.
Okay, very good.
And the other copy is still in the box. It's never been unsealed because I didn't know that this was going to be a collector's item, limited edition, anything like that. So my cards are already banged up, and it's, sort of that like paper stock, it's not the best card stock or whatever. So it does get worn out pretty easy, but it's mine and I love it. And while I haven't used it a lot, I suspect that I'll probably use it more in the coming years. But then the other one is this little tiny.
Oh, yeah, that one.
So,
yeah, that one's a collector's item.
I know, and that's, again, like I didn't realize that. So I was living in Chicago when I bought this, and I literally lived around the corner from a shop called the Occult Bookstore. Was one of the oldest occult shops. It was the oldest occult shop in Chicago. It had been around since the 1950s or 60s. And I had a friend that worked in there, and I could have sworn it still had the little price tag on here because I swear I paid like $6.95 for it when I bought it.
Wow.
But yeah, and it's like one of those things where it's like I kept it, and this one is so small. I don't even think it came with a little white book. Or
you need to move it to your right. No, your left. The other way. There you go. It is
I don't think
tiny. Wow.
Yeah. So like a regular deck is closer to, this size.
Yeah. Yep.
So pretty tiny. It's probably equivalent to the Los Scarabeo minis. But what was surprising to me, like, because I have not really fiddled around with that even since I got back in, is that the quality of the cards is really nice.
Oh,
I'm shocked at how nice they are.
good.
But the colors are like very muted. The line work is not as like clumpy as it is on the newer ones. So yeah, I was surprised. So yeah,
very nice.
Those are my baby decks. Those were the ones that I got when I was a little baby tarot punk rock kid.
So what inspired you to get back into tarot years ago?
I think I was just waiting for personal permission to get back into, you know what I mean? Like this goes back to what we were talking about a little bit about like fear of other people finding out, and like I hadn't really been researching it. So I didn't realize like that Kim Cran's deck had come out and Danielle Noel, and like that it was starting to come a little bit more mainstream and a little less, that you could only buy it at a place called the Occult Bookstore, like that you could go to Barnes and Noble and buy a tarot deck or go on Amazon.
On the wrong side of town.
Yeah, exactly. But you had to go in some place that absolutely reeked of patchouli and sandalwood incense in order to get a tarot deck, So I think it's sort of the universe gave me permission to get out of my own way and finally invest in it a little bit more.
Now, when you came back, did you come back with those two decks, or did you buy a new deck to start off?
I bought new decks. Partially, I think finding the new decks had artwork that was a bit more accessible. So in 2022 and 2023, I bought a lot of decks because it was like all of a sudden I was like this, like in the 90s, there wasn't a lot to choose from. You had 15 maybe, and again, I was walking into a place called the Occult Bookstore and they had a couple dozen. And I was poor as you could possibly get. I bought the smallest deck that was the cheapest one because I couldn't afford to buy anything else. So, now being able to buy, I was working full time, I could get whatever I wanted. And so I kind of went crazy.
So what did you end up? So what are some of the decks that you ended up buying when you came back?
So I think one of the first couple of decks I got was the Dreamweavers?
Yep, Dreamweaver.
The sort of bluish one. And I did get some of Kim Cran's decks. I got some of Danielle Noel's decks. I got, trying to think what else. After that, it was basically like the watershed.
I went through that
crazy.
My year. I bought like 70 decks my first year. Insane. My deck buying has significantly gone down since January. This week, I bought more decks than I bought in a long time. I think I got
how many?
4 or 5.
Cool.
I got very fortunate. Oh my God, Black Violet Tarot, I think it's called.
Yeah.
The Cherry Blossom, it's been out of print forever. Well, the creator sent a mass email out letting everybody know that there was this hair salon that had about a dozen left. She called it the Memorial Day miracle. And so I got the email and I just happened to get the email when I was in it. So I called and I was able to get me a copy. And since there were only a dozen, I knew I could buy 2 or 3 if I wanted to and then resell the other ones for a profit. But I was like, I just didn't feel right about doing that, even though the business selfish guy in me wanted to do that. I just got one. In fact, somebody actually reached out to me on Facebook when I mentioned that I was lucky to get one, saying, "Did you happen to buy 2?" And I'm like, "Unfortunately, no," because there weren't going to be many people to get it. But anyways, that one I found the Child Guardian Tarot. Do you know that one?
I don't think so.
It's a pink. They're like this big pink, and they're like they're angel decks with little kids, and it's very grandma-like, and it has little writings at the bottom. Lisa and Dawn had it on their channels, and then somebody else. And for the last year, I vacillated with it, and finally I just pulled the trigger because I want to use it as a nighttime before I go to bed deck. And then I ended up getting, what else did I get? It'd come to me. I can't think of the other two that I got. The Tarot of the Holy Light. I got that one. So
not the Holy Spectrum.
No, I already have that one. No,
Okay.
Tarot of the Holy Light. It's a very esoteric one. It doesn't really follow right away. It has its own book and stuff. I got it because I'm afraid it's going to go out of print, so I got it. But anyways, more about you. So when you came back, how did you approach learning the tarot?
Really, probably the biggest thing was discovering TarotTube and all of the content that was available on YouTube, which was so helpful from all sorts of perspectives, like being able to deck walkthroughs before you make purchases. Because the first few decks that I did buy were really just going on Amazon and being like, well, that one, I can see 3 cards. That one looks pretty good. I'll try that. But then discovering TarotTube and being able to watch a full walkthrough and being like, okay, now that I've seen all of the cards, is this a yay or a nay? Being able to watch how people are using the cards, people who provided a great deal of like sort of learning content, like Lisa Papez's Tarot with Training Wheels series, which was such a great way to sort of work through the process, was just, I mean, I just spent oodles and oodles of hours watching videos. And so I think that's part of why I started my channel, was that I spent basically the last 3 years being a lurker. And I thought, when it's time for me to put in some of the work.
Very cool. Now, what did you think about, I actually did Lisa's Tarot and Training Wheels as well. And I did a video for each lesson, and found it very helpful. Found some of the things that I really didn't connect with in some of the words that she chose. And so me and her actually had a conversation about that, which was really cool.
That's great.
But I found it very insightful that that one word would actually give me enough that I needed to where I could actually do a reading.
Yeah, isn't that great? Well, and I think, just having watched the videos that she provides, she talks about like these words may not resonate with you and you may find a different word, which I think was, again, giving people permission as new tarot readers, that just because the book that came with a deck says that the card means this, but you look at it and you're like, no, that looks like my Aunt Margaret, like, and she was not that kind of person. So when this card comes up, I think of Aunt Margaret, like those moments, that's okay. Like there's something there that.
Yeah, I mentioned that in my videos, and I mentioned that to her as well, that I think that was the biggest thing that she did in that series, that was allow the viewer to have permission to come up with their own words, to know that there was no boundaries to how it is that you can interpret the card. So I thought that was like the most important thing in that whole that series that I learned.
I also did her other course that she offers on her website, and I can't remember the name of it.
I haven't done that one. What do you think of it?
I think that by the time I actually decided to take it, I had probably moved further along, but it just extends and adds a lot of additional content. I haven't done her newest class, which is the like intuitive reading one. I did the sort of, it was basically like the Tarot with Training Wheels 2 was the class that I took.
Okay.
And it was helpful. And honestly, by that point, I really just wanted to pay for the grace that Lisa had provided by giving us the Tarot with Training Wheels. And since there's like not a tip bucket on YouTube to be like, I'm just going to pay you for that, because that was worth every cent I didn't pay. So I'm glad I was able to take that other class and at least contribute a little bit to all of the hard work she's put into the community.
Do you know who Kelly from Truth and Story is?
I do.
She, for me, is the guru of tarot and divination on YouTube. Her knowledge, how she's capable of looking at a card and bringing all this information from folklore and mythology and other divination practices to help expand on a card is like mind-blowing. I'm so impressed with it. I really like her. I will watch her walkthroughs because I learn so much about the cards just from a walkthrough. Yeah. She has courses that you can take. They're like $75. Phenomenal.
That's great.
Because she gives you like 3 or 4 weekends, 3 hours each. I know that's a lot. And then you can
that is.
You can ask questions in real time and she'll answer them. She's amazing.
That's very cool. I'll have to look into those.
Did you have any, what kind of challenges did you face in learning the tarot when you started back up?
So I was thinking about this, and honestly, I think probably my 2 biggest challenges was acquiring too many decks too quickly to really get involved in the studying. I got so excited about the pretty work and the themes, like, a deck that's all mermaid themed or all, such and such. And it's like, and watching a lot of people both on Facebook and YouTube and things like that are like, oh, I've built this collection that I'm going to use for this month. And it's like all of these, theme decks and that kind of thing that I got more involved, I think, in the acquiring and less in the study. So over the past about not quite a year yet, but I have started focusing on one deck per month, like one tarot and one oracle that I use for my daily readings. And I try to do them every day. There's some days that just get skipped for whatever reason, but I stick with that deck. And by the end of the month, I feel like I've gotten to know the deck better, understand things. And some decks I'm like, at the end of the month, I'm like, I'm so excited to try this next deck. And others that I'm honestly like, I don't want to put you away.
I know, I do the same thing.
Like I got literally choked up about like I'm gonna have to put you in the drawer this month, but I think that is what, as tarot readers, whether you read for yourself, read for other people, that you need to do. You need to create the kind of connection where you're like, this deck speaks to me in a way that I need to hear, whether it's right now or for this time. And I think sometimes just the deck acquisition thing can get in the way. And it's not to say that I don't freaking love to get a new tarot deck and I look at them all the time and I watch walkthroughs and I'd love to see them. But I do hit a point at which I'm like, no more. Like I had to do a big clean out because I was really overwhelmed. I had too many choices. And I use the comparison a lot of the time between Target and Walmart. Target only carries a couple of brands of laundry detergent and they fill the entire aisle with the same detergent. Like it's tied all the way down. But when you go to Walmart, they have every single possible brand imaginable. And you just get like decision fatigue because you're just like, I don't know which one to pick. There's so many to choose from.
You brought a memory back. I was at Walmart with my brother. I needed a new toothbrush. And I stood there, like, should I get this kind of toothbrush? Oh, I don't know. Maybe I should get this toothbrush. Literally 20 minutes later, my brother's like, pick a damn toothbrush. I just grabbed one. And I'm like,
you don't want to have that happen with your tarot, like you don't want to spend, it's that whole thing of like when you sit down to watch a movie and you're like going through your Netflix queue or like what's new on Netflix and you're there for 45 minutes before you pick out a movie, by which point you're like, you know what, it's getting late, never mind, I'm just gonna go.
I do that all the time.
So I was having that problem with tarot where I was literally sitting there for half an hour trying to decide which deck am I going to use today, which one and I was like, I'm getting in my own way of actually doing the work because I'm spending all my time trying to decide which one to work with. And so now I make a decision at the beginning of the month. This is what I'm going to do. Last month was the first time I played a little tarot chicken with myself and I picked a different deck for each week.
Oh.
And in the end, I ended up using 3 decks. And just because I know you're in Texas, right? So you probably had some weather the last couple of weeks too.
Yeah, I mean, our weather wasn't too bad.
So we lost power for a couple days and like just different things where it's just like, you know what? I'm just going to keep using this deck. We're getting along fine. We're going to stick together. I ended up using 3 out of 4. So
I will say that I went through the same experience where I had too many decks. And so therefore I wasn't really getting connected to a deck where I could really commit to a meaning. And so I could see the magician in 5 different decks, but the recall would be different on how fast it came to me because I was always looking at a brand new one. Had I stuck to one, the recall would have been just instant. So then when the other ones came up, I would have had the same recall pretty quickly with maybe some nuance.
Exactly.
And so what I was doing before was every 3 days, I was switching my Oracle decks and my tarot decks because I wanted to use them all because I want to use them all.
You want to use them all.
And I realized that was actually impeding my learning ability. So I did a video. I don't know if it was new goals for the next year or 10 tips for beginners, where I talked about I really need to sit with a deck for 3 to 6 months and just use one deck. And I ended up picking the Tarot Volatile. It was probably too lofty of an idea, but I stuck with it for 3 months. Uh,
You.
uh, it was hard. It was really hard. And I got better and I know more now, but still nowhere near where I think if I would have dedicated my learning at the beginning on, I'd be in a different place today. Now, you use Rider-Waite-Smith only?
Mostly, yes. I would like to be able to do more of the Marseille style and the sort of pip
Mm-hmm.
decks, but up until this point, it's my focus has been on the RWS and just sort of getting a full understanding, or at least a decent understanding under my belt. I feel like with tarot, you never master it. It's like
Yeah.
like yoga. You are never the master. You are always learning. So for me, it's like getting to where I feel comfortable with that and not having those moments where you're just like completely blanking out. Although I've heard in like podcasts and stuff, really well-known tarot readers saying, "Oh, I blank out all the time." I sit there and I look at the card and I'm like, "What the hell?"
Yeah. So why the Rider-Waite system compared to, let's say, Thoth or Marseille? What was it about Rider-Smith that kind of drew you?
Um, I think because there is imagery on all of the cards, which helped with meanings of the minors, particularly, really helped sort of develop that as I started looking at more and more decks. So like when you're looking at a deck like a Marseille deck, where I love the look of the pips of a Marseille deck, they're so beautiful. But you have that moment where you're like literally like 1, 2, 3, how many coins are on here? You know? And then I'm like, okay, so then I have to use my numerology brain and try to remember if it's 7, it's supposed to, so it's just like, and again, it's that whole thing of like trying to learn too many systems at one time. It's what is that whole thing about dabbler in everything, master of none. So, it's just one of those, it's like making that conscientious decision to be like, no, this is what I'm going to study. And when I feel like I need a kick in the pants or I need to learn more or get more involved, then I will start to expand out to Lenormand, to Kipper, to something else. But right now it's like the more I try to add these other things on top, the less porous my brain, just keeps, like, I don't remember anything.
I will say I do have some Marseille decks. I don't read them. I may use them every once in a while because I want to use them. But I bought them because, one, I really like them, and two, you never know if it's ever going to go out of print, and they really spoke to me. So I just wanted to get them in case I ever decide to use them. I have, I think, maybe like 3. I can't recall the names of them right now, right off the bat, but I have like 3 that I really, really like.
Cool.
Now, how long okay, let me ask you this. Do you feel comfortable with the cards, regardless of which cards come up, court cards, uh, major arcana, all of them, or are you still kind of,
I'm getting better.
Mhm.
Like on Memorial Day, we went to a picnic with friends, and one of my friends who's had me read her cards before was like, "We read cards?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." And so like I sat down with her and her aunt, and I read their cards. And the first time I had done that with her, I was just like, flop sweat, so nervous, books at hand, like, the whole thing. And I'm like, oh gosh, I hope I don't make a mess and everything. And this time I felt much more comfortable, even just stumbling through some things. Like her aunt, literally, she got all court cards. I'm like, what the? I'm like, apparently you got a lot of people looking out for you. Like, honestly, like it was one of those things where it's like once they presented themselves, like you have that moment where your intuition kicks in, and you're like, normally with a court card, like you have that moment of like, is this supposed to represent someone or someone that they need to be, like embody the energy of the page or whatever. But in this case, there were just like 3 of them in a line. And I'm like, normally I would do a different kind of reading, but clearly you've got an audience. You have people who are looking out for you, and it was just like, okay. But it was just like, it just changed how I felt about looking at the cards. Again, sort of giving yourself permission to like, oh, I was going to do like a past, present, future reading, but like pulled the cards and they were not having it. They were like, nope, we're here and we're just going to tell you what we want to tell you. And it's like, okay, I'm going to listen and I'm going to do my best to communicate. So
any particular cards that just are like gnawing at you, like, why can I not remember you? Like, what is, like, you have this block with a card.
5s and 7s, wands and swords.
Wands and swords. 5s and
the 5s. Yeah, the 5 of wands, the 5 of swords, because it's like the thief, the fighting, the protect, like they're in my head, like half the time they all look the same. I get them all mixed up, particularly like a really Rider-Waite-Smith deck. It's like they've got big sticks and they're like coming at each other. So like with the Rider-Waite, like this, like one of them is definitely like the sort of the guy who's holding all the swords and he's running off, you know. But it's like in other decks, I like it starts to get a little muddy and it's just like trying to remember right off the top of my head like which one's which. But those are the ones that trip me up the most.
So the 5s, the way I remember the 5s of swords compared to the wands is the wands are about kids, you know, on the streets trying to be the best one. They're challenging each other to be like the top dog, like who's going to be on the top of the hill, and you know, you pull each other down. The 5 of swords is about being very cutthroat, let's say in a business, like I am going to eviscerate you to get what I want. And so that's how I kind of see them differently. One is more playful, challenging. The other one is more serious consequences. Now the 7s, I can't think of the 7 of wands. Is that when he's leaning over the wand? Let me see. So the
Let's
7,
see. Who can find one fastest?
7 of swords is him about being sneaky, conniving.
Yeah. The 7 of swords is the one where he's stealing the swords, right?
Right. It also might be like, I have to do what I have to do to be successful, or I need to make sure that, yeah, here's the 7 of swords. Let's find the 7 of wands.
The joke, mine were all at the back of my deck.
Let's see. And mine always need to be, every time I look for a card, it needs to be near the end for some reason.
Yep. It's like it knows it's hiding.
Well, evidently I wasn't paying attention because I missed it. Here it is. Yeah. All right. All right.
Let's see.
So yeah, these are very, very different. Very different. So we got one that's really conniving, and the other one is very defensive, like he's guarding his space. He's warding off enemies. So what, you know what? One is actually very passive and one of them is very active.
Yeah. So I pulled the Carlotides deck, and this is the, let's see, this is the 7, the
wands.
Is this the wands? Yeah, that's the wands, and then this is the swords. So she's like eating the swords.
Okay.
Which again, like kind of creates a different meaning.
Yeah, so I think like maybe the one with the swords that he's following is that it requires skill and precision. Because like with this guy, he has to be very skilled at being sneaky.
Yep. Well, I guess in this case, she's stealing the swords by swallowing them. Like, how many can you swallow?
Yeah.
What do you got room for?
And then this, it's he's having to ward off enemies, but you know, they're coming at all different times. So like having to make sure that there's a balance of who you're attacking to ward them off. And here she has a sense of balance so she doesn't fall over. Those are my. I am getting better at tarot.
Good for you. Well, and it's one of those things, like, it also depends on the deck. Like, some decks is really clear to me, but like, you just have those moments where it's like, those are the ones that I freeze on and I'm like, wait, am I getting this right? Am I overthinking it?
What's your favorite card in the tarot?
I can't pick one. I really can't. Like, It's one of those things where it's like there's different cards that come up and I get like super happy when they come up,
Okay.
so it
So let me rephrase the question.
sure.
Which card makes you smile the largest?
The Queen of Pentacles.
The Queen of Pentacles. What about the Queen of Pentacles makes you smile from the inside out?
So, the Queen of Pentacles reminds me of my other mother who passed away in 2022. And whenever she was our nurturer, she cared for us. She took us in. We don't have any family in Kansas City, and she's the one who made sure that we came over for family dinners on Fridays, and we had a place to go for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so every time the Queen of Pentacles comes up, I just know that Diana's looking out for me.
That's wonderful. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. See, there was a favorite card in there.
Yeah.
Now, do you read the reference books a lot? Do you go to them a lot?
I do. I refer back to them. I've gotten to the point where it's harder for me to sit down and sort of read a guidebook from cover to cover
Same.
because I tend, do you know what I mean? Like like after a while, you're like, I have read through books like the major arcana from beginning to end so many times that by the time I get 2/3 of the way through, I start to sort of like, yeah. And then, so I'm not absorbing it as much. So I've tried to, as part of my daily habit, if a deck includes a guidebook, I will do my reading and then I will refer to the guidebook just to see if I glean any additional information from looking at that. So rather than
guidebooks are great. Right now, I am focusing on the Gentle Tarot. Do you have that one?
I don't.
The guidebook is amazing, and I think she has a sale on her decks right now. I ended up getting the linen edition for like $26.
Oh wow.
It's not a deck that I wanted, but then Annette from Refine Life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The deck Refine Life.
Yes. It was one of the, like, she did the 5 questions hashtag, said everybody could have this. And it was really compelling. I did a video on this. It was very compelling. And so I decided to give it a chance. And
I watched your video and then I went and watched her video.
Yeah, so I've been working with this, so I'm going to give an update video in the next week or two. And then she's coming on. Me and her are doing our tarot chat on the 15th, so we'll get to talk about it as well then.
Well, that's exciting.
But that guidebook is a really good guidebook. It took me a little bit to kind of get her format down in the sense of she talks about upright meanings or reverse meanings, but there's a lot of questions sometimes and no real definition. But I finally got a hang of the book. It's a really good book, and I love that she has so many prompts in it to make you critically think about the cards.
That's awesome.
So I'm learning a lot by doing that alone. Now, do you use oracle cards with your tarot card readings?
I do. So every month when I make my selection, I pick a tarot and an oracle.
Same.
And I am just as nerdy about it as Dawn Michelle. Like, they have to both work together energetically, but then they also have to look good together, or I won't use them. Like, I'll just have that visceral reaction of like, these are very disparate vibes, just aesthetically kind of a thing. So like, if the aesthetics don't match, then I don't think the vibe, the energy matches.
I'm the same way. My favorite pairing by far, like if they said, Benny, you can only have 2 decks, these are the 2 decks I would take. This Spoiler Tarot and When Olga Speaks. They're both collage decks, which is really outside of my norm, but they speak to me. They speak to the inner tarot person in me so much, and they communicate so well together that I literally had to put them away in a shelf, away from the other ones, because I was just drawn to want to use them and use them only.
But that's okay. Like, while we have a finite amount of time on this planet, like, we also should be doing the things that mean the most to us. And if right now it's the Spolia and what would you call the other one?
It's When Olga Speaks. Oh,
When Olga Speaks. Like, if that's what you want to work with right now, and it's what's speaking to you and giving you all of the information that you need from the the world, the universe, your subconscious, then you should use those. Like,
Yes.
we push ourselves to learn more, but like you're learning something just by using those together.
Yeah, but I think part of the issue also is I do have other decks I really like as well. Not as much as them, and I want to be able to use them. Also, because I do YouTube, I have to use other decks. I mean, how boring would it be if I only use those two decks for all my videos? I could do, maybe I could do a
Consistency.
series where I use them only and figure out what a series could look like when using those only. So that might be, yeah, I'll think about that. So what are your favorite Oracle decks?
So okay, I have a basket that I've slowly been pulling decks out of, just so you know. So okay, I'm gonna start with it's a set. I mean, they don't all work together, but it's I don't know if you've ever used these.
No, I almost bought them, but then I decided against it.
The Crystallary, the Bestiary, and the Herbiary. And in the end, I've ended up using the Herbiary more than the others. I know some people have actually just combined them all. Honestly, I'm surprised. I didn't think aesthetically these would jive with me. They're a little busy. They're huge cards. I have like baby size hands. I know children with bigger hands than mine. So this is like your classic full size Oracle, and I have to shuffle them sideways because I can hardly hold on to them. And they're not huge decks. I think they're maybe 40-ish cards. But in the end, they've really spoken to me. Like they're just so they're so pretty.
They are pretty.
And they have, again, like a lot of people talk about, they have a keyword and then actually what it is that's on the card. So this is the California Poppy, and it says resurrection, and it has this owl. And then in the guidebook, it gives some details. But from what I understand, there's also like there were larger books available that went into more detail about the flowers and things like that. And then they did the deck later because I guess the cards were very popular. And in the original, it was the book, and then like the cards were like tear out of the back of the book.
Yeah.
And then people were like, these are ridiculous. We want real cards. So they did the real cards. I've noticed they're not available a lot of places anymore. So I don't know if they've sold out. I don't know.
Are you talking about the books or the cards?
The cards. It's from Story, Storey Publishers. So maybe they'll do some more or reprint them. But I really like. The one that surprised the.
Well, I'm going to look it up on Amazon real quick to see. Oh my God. Okay, tell me. Go ahead. Talk about that deck.
This surprised the pants off of me because it was one of them that I bought when Hay House was having one of their super sales. And I was like, sure, why not? It was like, half price or something. I can't believe how much I've liked this. First off, I trimmed some of the white borders because they were ginormous. But I've ended up pairing these with a couple different tarot decks and found that they really worked. This actually worked really well with Tarot of Mystical Moments for me, because even though the images are kind of involved, they're not as busy as the Mystical Moments, which has a lot going on, but the sort of photo collage vibe kind of worked. I'm just surprised. And the guidebook for this is a lot better than I was expecting it to be. Not that it's no shade to the creator or anything like that, but because it just says action and it's got like waves and I'm like, yeah, what are you going to tell me? But there's usually these lovely sort of descriptive details. And I was like, it gives you a lot more to work with.
Now, and I talked about Annette and her, hashtag with the 5 questions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The last question is, what deck should everybody have? Mine was that deck. I think everybody should have that deck. Everybody.
It's just the thing that surprises me with this one is how the depth in the guidebook.
I think it's user-friendly. I think it is so user-friendly. It goes with a lot of decks. It's stunning artwork. It looks like museum pieces. Every single one looks like it could be in a museum. The white border looks like a frame. I just love it.
Yep. And I know a lot of people talk about Oracle decks are they're too fluffy. They're not asking you to sort of dig deep if you've got to.
I don't find that true.
I don't find that with this one. I think this one walks that line between if you're in a situation, there's often meanings in here that are like, are you, kind of these are places where you maybe need to break out or do something more. So they're not all just like love and light and squeezes and hugs. Like there's moments where you're like,
this is my opinion, that if you label a deck that way, then you are creating a boundary of where it cannot exist any broader than that. If you think a deck is limited, then it's probably limited for you in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like the Death Doula, talk about an intense oracle deck. Intense. But it's not only a shadow deck, I don't think. I think that deck could go both ways, but it leans very, very shadow-like.
Yeah. So one of my other favorites is the which is familiar runic oracle.
Yeah, I don't have that one. I don't think I know it.
It's kind of gone under the wire a lot. I think part of it is runes aren't everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah, I have a rune decks.
This one, it's tiny. It's like a more playing card size, and because it's just the Elder Futhark, it's like 26 cards, 24 cards, something like that. But what it does is the runes are something that I would like to learn and understand better, and each of the cards includes an animal, and then the rune symbol and the name. But the animal for me helps me understand the rune better. So each of the animals, so like, just being able to sort of work with that animal energy helps a lot, and being able to make that connection between what the rune stands for and sort of what the animal represents to me. And so I found it really useful.
Kelly has some really great videos on the runes.
Oh, that's cool. I'll have to look into those. But yeah, so this was one. And honestly, everything that the creator Athene, is it Athene Noctuo, does, I have all of the decks that she's done. I have the original Etsy decks, like the indie ones, as well as the ones that Hay House has released.
So what decks right now are your favorite tarot decks that you're using?
So my favorite deck is the Tarot de la Carlatides. This is my favorite deck.
Okay, yes, I'm familiar with it. What is it about that deck that you really like?
I really like the sort of quirky artwork style, but also there's elements of symbolism in here that require that I do a little research on my own, because there wasn't a guidebook or anything. They're largely, but like when you look at this one, it immediately reminds me of like Jane Austen or Emma or one of those characters. And so all of a sudden I have something to dig into for the symbolism that, I do think this reminds me of Emma, but that makes sense. Like Emma, as a character from Jane Austen, wore her heart on her sleeve, and she was like always trying to be a matchmaker, and that seems to make sense for the cups. So, but then there's other things like this is the moon card, and it's based on a famous vintage photograph of an actress sitting on a moon. Like,
yeah, I know that image.
Right. And so it automatically just sort of generates more ideas. And then there's things that are very sort of like Eastern European or whatever. And so like I end up spending a lot of time just like researching, like, was this for some sort of festival? Like, tell me more. Like, so I've kind of done my own homework with this deck. And at some point I will hopefully have enough information to like sit down and do like more in depth, because there really isn't a lot of information in the artist.
Have you ever created your own guidebook for a deck?
I haven't created my own guidebook, but I have started creating my own tarot deck.
Very good. Okay. So when did you start this?
Pretty much as soon as I got back into tarot. So I've been working on it for almost 2 years.
And your profession, of course, leans into that perfectly. So good for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
How much longer do you think it'd be before you're done?
Like I crossed the halfway point in terms of cards designed, because I didn't really do them in any particular order, though I have ended up getting all of the major arcana completed.
Okay.
But then as I'm going through the minors, it's been a little scattershot where it's like, oh, I've got an idea for this. And so like I have this idea for the Two of Pentacles, so I'm going to work on that. And so just sort of like now I just need to sort of like systematically go through what I have left to do.
Okay.
I have about 40, not quite. Well, I passed the halfway point, so I have about 35 left to do.
And do you have any plan to publish it?
My goal is to hopefully do it on Kickstarter. It's all hand created digital collage.
Okay,
So,
very cool.
With all with vintage imagery. So
then
it all got started.
you might like When Olga Speaks the Oracle. It is
Yeah, I think so.
Time magazine photos from the 60s and 70s.
Mhm.
And it's an homage to her grandmother with some pictures of her grandmother and other
That's great.
beautiful. What is your you don't have to share how much you spent on it, but what is the deck you spent the most money on?
I am kind of cheap, I guess, because I haven't. So there are a couple of the indie decks that I may have spent as much as like $75-ish.
Okay.
But like I have a hard time crossing that like $50.
There are a lot of people like that. There are people who will spend hundreds of dollars. There are people who won't spend more than $40. I mean, $20.
Yeah. I mean, I did just do the pre-order for the new Three Trees, is it Heartwood deck? And that was one where like once you have the deck and you pay the shipping and everything, it's
one of those shops that you have to order all the ones that you want at one time to save on shipping. So yeah. I got an order from them as well. What is the most you think you would ever be willing to pay for a deck? Like if it's an out of print deck that you really want, what do you think your cap would be? And the thing is, I thought I had a cap, and then I got the Spoiled Tarot. Another deck, and I went over, not by much, but I went over.
Okay, that's funny because my husband and I were talking about this because I had told him how excited I was when Taschen reprinted the Dolly Tarot because back in the day, this goes back to the occult bookstore in the mid-90s, of all of the tarot decks that they had in the store, the one that was behind the glass cabinet was the sort of the original edition of the Dolly Tarot. And that was the one I really wanted. But even back in the 90s when it was in print, that was like a $75 deck. Like, that was back in the day when my rent was a couple $100 for my share of a 3-bedroom walk up. And so
you have it with you?
Have you seen the Dolly Tarot?
Yes.
Yeah. So I've never gotten the original, but that is one that I would probably spend more money than I should.
Couple $100.
Oh yeah, more probably. And so when I was pulling stuff out to show you, I was flipping through the Vertigo guidebook. It's a hardcover book, by the way. And in the back, it was talking about Rachel Pollack and her history. And one of the things it mentioned was that she authored Salvador Dali's tarot.
Isn't that amazing?
The deal is that's not the text that Taschen uses. They had someone else write their guidebook.
Interesting.
So I wonder if that old 90s edition of the Dali Tarot includes a guidebook by Rachel Pollack. And I'm like, all of a sudden that added a couple zeros on the end of the price that I'm willing to pay for that.
Okay. So for everybody out there, anybody has that deck with that book, contact.
Just let us know which edition, and did she actually write the book, or is the book something that she did separately, or is it the guidebook that's included? I have no idea. And a lot of those things is it's just like, it may just be a matter of me looking for an out of print book that she published for the major publishers. But
Now,
yeah, so
no, not, this is not monetary. What is your most valued deck? The deck that if your house was on fire and you could only save one deck, what deck would that be?
it probably would be the Vertigo deck, just
Yeah,
because it's pretty much irreplaceable at this point.
pretty much bigger. Now, did you ever get
Yeah.
a deck that just like did not resonate with you? You're like, opened it up and you're like, nope, not doing it.
Yes, yes. And I'm embarrassed. Like, I'm embarrassed because so many decks are the decks that just like sing to other people. And I
Yeah,
open it up and I'm like, back in the box you go. Nope, 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 nope.
I had a deck.
Moving along.
Which one?
And God, if I say it out loud, no one will ever like me. I'm
Oh my God.
size from
There are people that don't like Lisa Pepez is adored. I'm sure there are people out there that are going, I don't like that deck. Or will go, oh, this deck's not for me. And it's Lisa Pepez's deck.
okay. So
Mine is the Phantom Tarot. People love the Phantom Tarot. It's a little neonish. I got it.
oh yeah, yeah.
I touched it. I went, ah, and I just like, no way. It brought a very ugly, visceral reaction from me. I couldn't get it in the box fast enough. I couldn't get it in the corner of a shelf at the bottom in the back darkness fast enough. Oh man.
It's like the longer we sit here thinking about, the more our decks I think of that like I heard nothing but praise. People freaking love these decks, this one, that one. And I'm like, I don't know which one to out myself about. But
You
I'll do
don't
one that I was
you don't have to.
I'll tell you I'll
Okay.
tell you the ones I lucked out. I managed to get a copy of The Pagan Otherworlds. I was so excited to get it. I know people talked about how much they loved it. And I opened it up and I looked at those little faces and I'm like, there's something about those faces on those characters that back in the box. Like I just can't get past
Okay.
the
Well,
illustrations. And the crazy thing is there's several like I have not gotten rid of it. It's still in my, and I open it up every now and again and I look at it and I'm like, nope, you and I are still not getting along. Back in the box.
okay. Well, thank you for coming by. I really appreciate it.
But you're going to leave me on that note?
I love that. I love that deck.
I know everybody does. And that's why I keep holding on to it. Cause I keep thinking maybe part of it is just that like I wasn't in the right place when
It
it
just may
showed.
not be the right deck. There's some decks out there that are just like I really like the Gentle Tarot, not the deck for me. It turns out that it's a better fit than I thought. But my mind was closed to it. So I mean, you never know. You never know. But
Right.
there's a
And
deck
this,
like the Phantom. Never,
yeah.
never will ever look at that deck, touch that deck, come near that deck ever. But it is a beautiful deck that other people resonate with it. I mean, it sold well. It's just not a good fit for me.
Yeah. And I think that was one of those things where it's like I thought I was going to love it. And I opened it up and I'm like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, I think it. Now, my next question is, can a card ruin a deck for you?
Yes. Yes.
Really? Okay, like what kind of
It's so, and I meant to like go dig for it because I still have the decks down in my D-stash pile. But the Muse Tarot, I wanted to love that so much. That was the Chrysan deck. And there's one card where there's like the figure is like upside down and she's wearing the most hideous orange shoes. And I can't get past the shoes. Like for whatever reason, every time I deck out, that's the card that comes up. And I'm like, lady, you and your ugly shoes are going to have to go somewhere else.
Yeah. No,
Like,
for me,
it just kills me.
yeah, the Labanco Tarot. I wasn't going to buy it because of the lovers and because of the devil, because I just found them so disturbing. Then I said, no, there's a reason. Why am I reacting so harshly to that? And I think it deals with sexuality for me.
Yeah. And
And
I've looked at those cards and saw like they are definitely like, they are not messing around. Like they
it's
are.
in your face. So I went back and I bought the deck. I had to go. I mean, I was very lucky I was able to get it because it sold out when I was contemplating it. And I love that deck. I love that deck. But when those cards come up, for me, it's like, okay, we really need to pay attention here. What's going on? And it usually is related to relationships, um, really deep, intimate relationships or sex, so.
Yeah, those are potent cards. I don't know what it is me about that pair of shoes. I like it's mine is so like snobby. Like I don't like your shoes, lady. Yours is much more emotional and like deep and meaningful.
No,
But that was what
yeah, I've had
that,
decks
that
where I'm like, this is an ugly deck. I'm not doing this. Um,
uh,
okay, so for the viewers out there, in case somebody has one of these that they could reach out to you for, what are your unicorn decks?
I actually don't have any.
Well, you have the Dolly with the book.
I absolutely like if someone can give me details on how to acquire that isn't going to cost me a house payment, then yes, please let me know.
Uh,
But that's probably and honestly, like that the fact that I have the replica is great. I really enjoy this deck. And I know like lots of people have trouble with Dolly and he's a big snob and I believe he made himself the magician, which is fine. Like you have an ego, man, go for it.
Now, did you have a unicorn list before that you were able to check off decks,
Um
or not really?
yes and no. There were I mean because again, I feel like I'm new enough to this that I don't know what I've missed, in the intervening years so that I can be like, oh, I wish I gotten that deck. But there were some things like I really wanted the Pagan Otherworlds and I really wanted the Tildwick and I've had opportunities to acquire those. So they weren't really, and at the time, like were they unicorn decks? I don't know that I would give them that high. It was just one of those things where it's like, oh, it's kind of an out of print deck and it's a little bit harder to get. But I feel like with the internet, there's no such thing as a deck you can't get. It's just how much you're willing to pay for it.
There are some decks that I haven't been able to find. There's one that I really want. It's an Oracle deck, the Divine and Masculine something, or I don't have my phone with me, something or other Oracle deck. I cannot find it anywhere. I cannot find it. And I want it really bad because it's a very balanced deck between masculine and feminine that I really like.
Oh, yeah.
But 2023 was a crazy year for me for out of print decks. Like I checked off pretty much all of my out of print unicorn decks.
Yeah. And you've gotten a lot of the like Baba Studios, which I always thought on my unicorn list, but the longer that I see people do walkthroughs and things like that, I'm like, no, it's okay. I don't need that one.
Now,
And
yeah, the only one that
Carol,
that I want is the fairy tale Baba suit. And I actually purchased one on eBay for a reasonable price and it got lost in the mail. And the woman who sold it to me was in complete contact with me, like working with me, did an investigation to try to find it. She finally said, do you want me to refund you now or do you want to wait a little bit? I said, I'll wait a little bit. And then after like a week, she contacted me. She goes, they can't find it. So just open an investigation with eBay and I will refund you immediately. And she did. So I know that it was a deck. And now they want $800. I can't pay $800 for a deck.
no.
But I really want that deck. That's the only one that I don't have. Because this month, I get the Tarot Prague. They're shipping it out this month.
Oh, that's exciting.
With a Victorian Romantic as well. So I got a backup of the Victorian Romantic, and then I got 2 Tarot Pragues. I got a backup for every single one of those decks from Baba Studios.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's not my only expensive hobby.
Okay. Now,
So,
do you journal?
funny that the two meet. Well, because my other world is I have for the last 14 years done a blog called The Well Appointed Desk, which has been fountain pen, ink, and paper reviews, including journals, planners, all that kind of stuff. I have done guest hosting on the Pen Addict podcast. I go to pen shows. So yeah, journaling is a huge part of what I do.
Oh, let me tell you, that is a great series for you to start on your TerraTube channel. I mean, people love journaling. That's how Dawn Michelle really got her thing.
Yeah.
So that's something that you can do. You could do, a lot of different stuff with that. I think that would be a great, and also there's not a lot of people, I don't think, in tarot that showcase that on a regular basis. So that's probably one way you can make yourself stand out.
I hope so. I hope so. But yes, I do. I keep basically a one journal kind of thing. This is a B6 sized Stalogy in a leather cover that I bought on Etsy. The seller no longer is on Etsy, but there's lots of people who sell leather covers. And then
Yeah.
I just I put foil like rub-on transfers on there. So stars and moons and stuff like that. Those are Midori rub-on transfers for anyone who's curious.
Okay. Oh, my lights went out.
Look, you look great. It's fabulous.
Oh my God. It's a little scary. It's
Do you want to pause?
face and everything. Like my hair goes out in the back. Like if I didn't have this brown chair, can you imagine? I'd be a floating head.
Do you want to pause and figure out what happened?
No, the batteries died. The batteries died.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
now
okay.
it's very talking head vibe. It's very cool. But yeah, so I just do like a page a day. Let me find an actual page that's worth looking at. But yeah, so I just do a page a day in my planner, and
Beautiful.
with some stickers and some doodling and some writing, and then I include
Pretty.
and then I include my cards of the day if I have actually done it. Some days not so much. And like my decks, I theme each month in my planner. So like this month was strawberries and mushrooms was my theme. So like all the like little stickers and
Okay.
crud that I put in there.
That would be like, that is the video I think that people would love to see, is like how you set up that, because I like the way you have it all planned out. And then how you come up with a theme, and then maybe show at the beginning of the month, you starting, let's say July, and at the end of the month, at the end of July, showing all how the pages look. That would be kind of a cool video.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm always thinking about
And
those.
Yeah. And for so last month for the Well Appointed Desk, I did actually do a video with my planner setup and everything. And that's actually on a separate channel for Well Appointed Desk. But that's another sort of, I've been trying to get more actively involved in doing video, because up until this point, the blog has mostly been still images. But yeah, so that's like a big part of my everyday life. Yeah, pens, ink,
Very cool.
all of that kind of stuff. So
My journaling is really Instagram. I will do a spread, 3-card spread, and then I'll do my reading, and then I will summarize it and then post it on Instagram. And those are my 3-card readings. And I found that the ones that I really love the most happen to be the ones that I write on a spiral, and then I put my cards on top of the spiral.
perfect.
I don't know why, but I just really love doing it that way. So after I finish this whole thing with a gentle tarot, I'm going to go back to doing the spirals, and that just might be my thing, because I really enjoy it that way.
Well, and one of the things that the field notes journals, the little notebooks, have you seen the craft notebooks?
Yeah.
They say, I'm not writing it down to remember it later. I'm writing it down to remember it now. And that's sort of their tagline. And I feel like when you handwrite anything, you really are helping yourself to remember it at that moment. Sure, you might go back to refer to it, but just by writing it down helps us to process and understand information. That's why they say that students do better when they take notes by hand, because you're having to process the data that's being given to you and condense it down and simplify it, so that, because you can't write, like people can type faster than they can write, but like you're not absorbing any of it if you're just taking dictation.
Yeah. What I'll do is, and the other thing that I like about, because I have to take a picture to put it up, is that if it's an important reading for me for the day for whatever reason, I'll actually make it my screensaver. Or if something triggers me, wait, didn't my reading say something about this? I'll go to Instagram and it's right there for me. So I always have access to it with me. I really wanted to like journaling. I really wanted to be able to make it pretty and do stickers and all this stuff. It's a job.
It is. It's a
not
commitment.
It's not fun for me. It's just not fun for me. There are people that love it. They love the creativity of it. For me, I find it very frustrating, very draining. So,
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the things that like with my other job, like convincing people that find the system that works for you. Like some people do better when their planning journal, whatever, has some creative elements, some decorative elements, because then it's pretty and you want to look at it and you want to open your book and use those pages. Other people get frozen because now the page is pretty and I don't want to put my ugly handwriting in it. And I'm like, that's okay. You can use a plain spiral bound notebook from the grocery store. It doesn't have, if the goal is to actually get you to write the
yeah.
things down, and in whatever way that makes sense for you.
Now, I want to take a little shift in our conversation.
Sure.
So, let's talk about your tarot channel.
Okay. There's
So,
not a whole lot.
hey,
So
wait a minute.
new.
I have questions. I have questions. I'm ready for this.
Okay.
So, what
Okay.
inspired you? Because you had mentioned earlier, you've been watching for 3 years. It was time for you to be a part of the community. What was the initial inspiration for your channel?
I had watched enough content that I felt like I had the opportunity to present a slightly different perspective.
Okay.
And that's really the reason I think why anyone sort of does this sort of thing, is to find a way to bring something, just a different perspective, a different viewpoint. And I was hoping that that's what I would be able to provide. And to your point, like adding in some of the journaling content is something that I feel like might benefit the channel as well. But just being able to be like, I've seen lots of videos that have a lot of this is your first tarot deck, this is a walkthrough review site, like very specific kinds of things. And then you have people who are super advanced, super experienced. They're teaching. They're the Danny Mystic, Don Michelle.
Yeah, Danny Mystic.
Lisa Papaz.
I love how much she uses her culture on her channel.
Absolutely.
I love it.
They're like so advanced. So you have like the sort of channels that really feel for beginners, and then you have the stuff that feels really advanced. And I kind of was hoping that maybe I was the advanced beginner, the beginning intermediate, like bringing sort of that perspective of like, okay, so you've had a few decks. How do you, like, I guess I don't at this point, like I've come out of the broom closet at a certain point.
Well,
I'm comfortable talking about how I do my readings. Like I know a lot of people like don't want to share their actual readings because it's like very private and personal. But I'm like, the first video I put up was me doing a card reading that I did, and I didn't understand it. And then the next day I'm like, you know what? My cards are just telling me to go out and buy a Nintendo Switch. That was it. Like it wasn't genius. And like sometimes that's what the cards are telling you. Like, did you see the pretty bird outside? I put it on the card. Why didn't you look out the window? It's not always.
Yeah, you'll find your channel niche. Like mine was, I started mine because when I wanted to, but mainly because I didn't see anybody out there who was documenting their journey starting out brand new. I didn't find anybody. So I said, I'll do it.
It's so brave. I think it's so brave of you to have been willing to sort of do that and kind of come to the community as like, this is my learning process.
Yeah. And I just figured also, knowing that, I think everybody would just give me grace. I think people would be like, well, let's see, what his progression looks like. Let's see what he's doing. And then it has progressed to really community building, which came out of nowhere. And so now
I can't think of a better ambassador for the community, though. You have been so open and sharing both with your experiences, but then inviting other people into the community. So I think that while you weren't expecting the crown, I think you need to wear it.
Oh, you're very sweet. Thank you. But yeah, you will find, and I think this, I think it's a universal experience that you start a channel with an intention or an idea, and then all of a sudden, as you go on, you figure out, it's like going to college. You take all these classes and then you find out what your major is. I think it works the same way with the channel. How did you,
There's something there with major arcana. Like I feel like you could do something with that.
yeah.
Finding your major arcana.
So, your first video, why did you decide on that video of all videos to do?
Because I don't see a lot of people, like I see a lot of people doing the like readings for the community and like things like that, and I wanted to just show that sometimes the like my entry into it is like sometimes the cards are telling you like you need to go grocery shopping. Like it's not telling you that you need to have like a huge
A big moment.
a big moment. Like sometimes it's telling you about the little moments, and also sometimes you get the cards and you look at them and you're like, what is this hodgepodge? I don't. And then the next day you look at it and you're like, oh, that's what that was. My cousin came to visit.
My last draw was 3 major arcana. I've never had 3 major arcana. I was like, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, whoa. Then I had another deck that was like the 7 of Swords, the Devil, and the 5 of Pentacles or something like that. I'm like, oh my God.
That's like a blanket fort day. Time to just crack the covers.
But so this is me, and I'm setting it up so you have an idea of my question. Is my tarot cards, I use them on how can I grow as a human being, spiritually, mental health wise, taking care of my body, how I'm a better person to other people, how can I be of service, how can I reach a higher spiritual plane? How do you use your decks?
I think I do use them similarly, but also it's sort of taking that bead each day, because some days you have a lot of energy and you're ready to take on the world and you're ready to like, fight all the big battles. And then other days it's like you almost need that permission to be like, you know what, today is not a fighty day. Today is a blanket fort day. Today is a, lay low, don't do all the chores. Like I get the 4 of Swords. It's honest to God, the last 2 months is probably my stalker card. But I'm like, it just keeps telling me like, just freaking lay down for 15 minutes, lady. Like enough already. Take a chill. And those are, so part of it is also like, is it a higher entity telling me these messages, or is it my own subconscious being like, you need to like chill out, lady? Is it just me and my, kind of like, it's just my telling me that I need to do these things, but also like it is, it's like trying to be the best person that you can. And then the messages that come through the cards tell you if you're on track or if you need to course adjust, because sometimes when the messages are just like, no, you seem, what else do you want us to tell you? Like, you done the things. Like sometimes like, you get the card like the 7 of Pentacles. It's just like, now you gotta wait. Like this is a card that's telling you like,
I've not had
all the work.
I've not had many stalker cards, but there was a card that was a crazy stalker card. I had the 3 of Wands. That whole week it was showing up. It showed up like 4 times out of the week. Then I was working with Nick, a mentor who I had on a tarot chat. And he, after every one of our sessions, he would pull a card. And I talked to him about, my stalker card of the week. And he pulled the card and it was the 3 of Wands. And he's like, well, I don't think I have anything to say about this. There you go. It was crazy. So what was it? Was it hard for you to figure out how to record, how to edit, how to upload? It looks like, yes, it was.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. So I have a lovely friend who is a filmmaker, and I have had several meetings with him, and he is so sweet, and he does everything he can to help me to like make it better and everything. And I'm just like, I come home and I'm like, I can't do any of that stuff, like 2 camera setups and like this and that and the other. And I'm like, I'm just going to film this with my iPhone or it's never going to get done. Well, and I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. And you know what? Looking at your videos, I wouldn't have been able to tell if it was a camera or an iPhone.
And it's just like, I have the, like the investments that I think need to be made is my sound is always more important than visuals, honestly, for YouTube. And I've heard it said a million times. And because I've done podcasting, I have a good mic. You can't see him. He's over here, a little fuzzy buddy. But also some kind of tripod clamp mount so that you're not trying to stack your phone on top of a pile of books so that you can get the angle that you want. Like, invest in that kind of hardware, not in the camera. Just use your phone. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then the editing is just, it's my own worst nightmare.
Do you have a Windows computer or?
No, I work on a Mac.
Let me tell you, Final Cut Pro is amazing.
I have not invested in Final Cut Pro. I have an Adobe subscription, so I've been futzing around with the various Adobe Premiere and Premiere Rush. Premiere scares the living daylights out of me. So I've been using, they have like a smaller piece of software called Rush that is simpler, but to the point where it's like, again, my little designer self is like, oh, but I can't change these graphics the way that I want to. So eventually I'm going to have to move to something a little bit more complicated.
Well, Final Cut Pro, they give you 3 months for free.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll give it a try.
3 months for free if you like it, don't like it. There's some great YouTube videos, tons of YouTube videos on how, and really it's start off with editing, then start off with lighting, or you could even start with audio. Right now, I'm learning how to do better audio because let me tell you, my audio is driving me crazy. Sometimes I find like I sound like an echo. I mean, my videos aren't consistent, and so it drives me insane.
I think it's a challenge for everybody, but I honestly think within the tarot community, that isn't the priority. Like, I don't tune out of a video if the lighting, like, if the lighting too harsh, I'm more likely to step away because it gets a little like eye searing. Like if the shadows are too harsh, like if you know what I mean? But, you can use window light. But with the same thing with sound, like honestly, right now I've been doing my sound with my AirPods, which have a built-in microphone, which I think provides a decent amount of sound quality without getting a ton of room echo.
Yeah.
But then, for videos like this, I get to use my Yeti, which.
And let me tell you, Final Cut Pro, the audio section has a place where you can isolate the voice and it takes everything else out.
Oh, that's cool.
Because sometimes I'll have men working out in my back area. I live in a condominium, so there's a next building, and they'll do like the lawn and stuff, and I can isolate my voice, and you can't hear them, which is nice.
That's awesome.
And like
so much of that also has to do with the microphone.
Yeah,
like there's 2 different kinds of mics. Some pick up more exterior audio
and all that kind of stuff. Like I got a wireless mic, but for some reason I'm struggling to connect my wireless mic to Ecamm, which is a program that's special to Apple. So I have to figure that out, but I've said I'll figure that out when I get to my new place. But yes, like this lighting going out, I'm like, God, is that going to be an issue for everybody? So I'm always very aware of stuff. And then my skin would be different colors.
Oh.
So I find that to be challenging.
Try having a terrible case of rosacea. So then you've got a whole separate problem.
So now, have you been thinking about future content? Like, do you have ideas? Do you have a little notebook where you write your ideas and stuff?
I do. I've been actually, strangely enough, the ideas tend to start like on just a scratch paper or in one of my notebooks, but it ends up in a list digitally. So, because I've just been listing my videos by number. So like video 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. I like that. So we're talking about on your actual video, it's like 001, 0. I love that. I love that. I considered doing that when I first started, but then I forgot about it. And so I just never did it.
And this comes from having done a lot in the audio podcasting side where it's just an episode and this is what's covered on this episode. And I think as I go on, there's potential for that to become different series or something like that. But for right now, I'm just throwing them up like that. And it makes it easier for me to keep track of where things are because then I have my files on my computer are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm adding content. I'm a nerd. Yeah, I save all my files.
I upload it and then I delete. Upload, delete.
I would like to say that I will do that at some point because the files are freaking huge.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Now,
even for a 20-minute video, they're
well,
lengthy.
now with the MacBook, if I in Final Cut Pro, you can compress the file to make them smaller. What happens is with the Mac is when you create a video, it creates a backup, so it's actually taking double the space. So when you delete your video, you have to delete the backup video as well. So I didn't know that my memory would get filled up, and Apple's been great about, that's one thing I like Apple. I call them, they help me out, I'm done. It's just like this.
I use a piece of software on my Mac called Daisy Disk.
Daisy Disk.
And it will tell you what is taking up the most space on your hard drive. And then it will let you, like, it just shows you like this little graphical interface of like, this is taking up this much space. And then you can sort of double click and it'll show you which folder is taking up the most space and then which, subfolder, and until you can kind of find who's causing the problem. And it's a great way to, like, when you're looking for things like that, you need to delete, but you're like, I have no idea where that file is or what it got named. You can kind of drill down into these folders.
Very cool. Very cool.
Daisy Disk is awesome. I used it a lot over the years just because it's so easy to use. And you can also do it on external drives and stuff like that. So if you've been backing up, because I've been, like, my photos for my blog, I use Lightroom, and you take 47 pictures, you use 3. It takes up a ton of space. So then I have to back all of that stuff up just in case. And so I have 14 years of pictures of pens nobody wants.
Now, is there anything that is off topic when it comes to your tarot channel, like things you will not discuss?
Not yet, but I don't have enough experience yet to really make a judgment call about like when I hit a point. But honestly, I feel like at this point, I'm putting it out there. I might as well go all the way.
Okay. Now, when it comes to your favorite tarot tube channels, who are people that you tend to go to?
Well, I mean, we've mentioned them already repeatedly, but I love Danny Mystic. I love Dawn Michelle. I love Lisa Pepez. I would love to someday get to meet them and just thank them for all of the wonderful things that they've done. But I did try to like dig up some of the smaller channels that I've been watching, just because I feel like, not that the 3 ladies don't deserve all of the press that they get.
I mean, I think they're on every list,
They're on everybody's list, and that's great. They should be. But like, I really like Candy Soul and Soil. She's one that I always tend to watch. She's just, there's something about the way that she speaks, and she's just sort of loose and free about everything, and to the point of like how perfect your videos need to be. And I'm like, I watch Candy's all the time, and she's, I think over the holidays, she did one from her attic where she was like digging around looking for Christmas ornaments and Christmas decorations. I mean, like, she just lives her life, and it's just fun to watch her.
Very cool.
But I still go back and watch Katie Flowers videos. I know that.
Oh, love Katie Flowers.
But I mean, like, she is missed in the community, because she was one that early on, I think I watched just hours and hours and hours. But some of the newer people that I really like watching is, there's a woman named Jenny who does a year in a day.
Yes, I'm actually I love hers.
I have a girl crush on her. I admit. I just like her videos. Like, I watch them all the way through. Like the first time she did I saw one of her videos and she included her Blythe dolls in there. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're like soul sisters. We should be friends. So, but
when now, if I want to make sure I don't forget something that I want to ask, when it comes to somebody brand new, if you're going to give them a deck, somebody brand new, just starting out, what deck would you give them?
It's so timely, because yesterday I had someone email me and say, hey, aren't you into tarot? I want to get a deck for a friend. And I was like, my go-to for the last 3 times someone has asked me this question is either This Might Hurt or Modern Witch as a starter deck, because it walks that line between really recognizable RWS symbolism and a more modern sensibility with
Yeah.
more representation and more modern scenery so that like people aren't thrown off quite as much with, you know, knights in, you know, in armor on horses, and instead it's somebody on a motorcycle, and it's just like it feels more approachable to people who are new to tarot. It's not quite as scary. But even in both of those decks, the devil is still a little spooky, and so there's still some of that element where they feel, ooh, I've got the scary tarot deck kind of thing. But those
Okay.
are my picks usually.
And any one book that you would give to a new person to start learning the tarot?
Kitchen Table Tarot by Melissa Sanova.
Do I have it?
Every day.
Do I have it right here? I have it right over there. Yes, I do like that book quite a bit. Yes, I have that book. I like it. Highlighted all over the place.
Well, and
Very approachable, very digestible.
it is, and I think part of it is because it sort of approaches it from like you're doing like kitchen. It says it right there on the cover. Kitchen Table Tarot. Like it does, you don't have to have a special room and a special table and all this. You can literally pull tarot at your kitchen table, and that's totally fine. And I think that she's super approachable.
And
She's from St. Louis too, so neighbors.
What's the one piece of advice you would give a new tarot reader?
Oh gosh,
Just one.
Don't be afraid of any of the cards.
Okay.
Like they're like I think of like the 10 of Swords. Like people like panic when they see somebody stabbed 10 times in the back. Right?
Or the Tower. People.
The Tower.
Tower, yes.
At some point, I looked at the Tower and I was like, you know what that card is? That's a kill your darlings card. That is a like, whatever you're working on, maybe you need to go back to the drawing board, start from scratch. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that your house is going to burn down. Like, sometimes it's a metaphor for like, you need to clear all that nonsense out so that you can make a fresh start. So it's like, it's not always scary, frightening. The 10 of Swords is like, hey, drama queen, get up. It's not that bad.
I love that. Hey, drama queen, the 10 of Swords. That will never leave me. I think that's awesome.
I honestly think that might be Melissa Sanova, 100%. But I mean that, and I think that kind of common sense with the scary cards, the 3 of Swords, the ones that people look at and they're like, oh, I'm like, you know what? Sometimes it's again, like we all get in our own feels and our own drama, and like I've been getting the 5 cups.
5 of Cups
lately. Yeah, like apparently, I'm a very half empty right now. The cups are half empty. Like, what am I not paying attention to? It's not that, like, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, instead,
always that serious.
With that, it's like I don't always necessarily think of the glass half empty. Like maybe your focus should be is that you have a glass.
Yeah, you got a couple full ones. Sure, yeah. Those other ones not so full, but you still have some. Like, what are you not looking at that you do have? Yeah. And I think that for me, lately, that's what I need to focus on. Like, I'm the idiot who decided to quit my full-time job and do all of this craziness as a life. And so I've had moments where I'm like, I'm not making any money. Oh my gosh, what have I done? And I'm like, but at the same time, like, I have people like you in my life who have given me opportunities I wouldn't have had otherwise. And like, start looking at those full glasses and stop looking at the empty ones.
Well, I mean, so I was a director at a psychiatric hospital, and it wasn't a good fit for me. I worked at the psychiatric hospital, worked my way up to a director of social services, and I missed the client interaction. And so I decided that this wasn't good for me. And I wasn't getting to work with the type of people that I wanted to work with. So I decided I'm going to open up my own private practice and work with the clients I want to work with. So I left my job. I had some savings. I had no clients. I was building from scratch. I didn't know how to run a business. Got everything set up, opened my practice, and within 2 weeks, this major hospital that works with cancer patients had a position open, which I couldn't believe because I've been looking for 8 years to find a position like that. And within 2 weeks, I had a job and I was in an office working with who I wanted to. And so, it's working through those fears, taking that leap of faith. Yes, I don't have income coming in. I don't have all these things, but I do have this, and I just have to trust the process. So,
The fool's journey.
it works out the way it works out.
Yeah.
Now, before we go, any last thoughts, questions, or things you'd like to share?
Trying to think. I feel like I've shown so many things.
Yeah.
So much. People are probably ready to go tune into another episode.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate
Thank you. This was great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, everybody. This is the end. Thank you so much for coming by. Again, my name is Benny. I am the Fool's Apprentice. And until next time, have a great day. Bye.